Hey everyone, this is Andrew. Welcome to Atomo, Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. I just wanted to use this video to talk about Jordan Peterson and I guess we call it a WEF alternative. So I'm sure you all know the WEF, that group that meets in Davos every year. And if you search around, there's a lot of stuff out there. Go check out Rebel News. They went deeper than any journalists. Mostly though, they're prostitutes that go there, and prostitutes are the type that will just kowtow to whatever the establishment is saying, because basically they're paid by the establishment. Here in Canada, the legacy media gets kickbacks from the government, so they'll parrot whatever the government wants them to parrot. It's complete Germany style prior to the lead up to World War II. It's kind of that idea. Thankfully, in this day and age, we have alternate channels like this channel that you're watching right now. So thank you for your attention. And the WF, they're unelected, and what's happening is, in one sense, it is a place where people can go, people who have big businesses and government people to go. Yes, there's going to be hobnobbing and whatnot. What I tend to find, I go to conferences myself, and you like to find places where you can get to find like-minded people and share ideas. So there's nothing wrong with going to a forum to share ideas. If all the heads of state are there, and this is my opinion, then the heads of state all come together and they meet up and they talk about things that they want to do, make deals. It's when what gets irritating for me is when the policies start coming down, and at least what we've seen in Canada, then these policies start to get ramrodded through and thrust upon the people without looking at, well, kind of what's the Canadian position, what's our identity in this, how much of this change can we take on? A system can only take so much change before it either reaches a point where it becomes too expensive to do the change because there's such resistance to the change that you just don't get, for the amount of money and people power that you put into it, you get very little back. Or you just flood the system with change and the system can't keep up, and basically you get a sense of ungovernables. But this is where the trust has broken down so much that someone decides they want to become ungovernable, then what happens is the government will crack down on those people, and, well, as we've seen in Canada, they'll seize your bank accounts, or will keep you in prison on misdemeanor charges without any sort of trial set up, and all the pre-trial detention and all that we've seen with some of the political prisoners that occurred due to the trucker convoy. So that stuff aside, just WEF is, if you go to a strong type of centralization, you basically have a type of collectivism, communism, central planning, and that becomes fragile. It's a Tower of Babel. It falls apart. So what Jordan Peterson did on the Joe Rogan video is he talked about an alternative to the WEF. So this channel is Atomo, and then a miracle occurred, and this is kind of a miracle. And the way that Jordan Peterson put it is, no, the way that Jordan Peterson put it is looking to create at least a place where the thought can start, And then the idea is little c conservatism works great on decentralization. So what do we mean by that? Well, if you've gone and done things like go to a community center, join a community club, start something on Facebook, get some people together, heck, even, um, we espouse here on this channel traditional family values. So even finding other parents and going for a walk in the park with your kids and bringing the family, and creating a group for doing that, creating a chess club or something. All of these are ways that you can create a local style grassroots movement. Then get involved in your civic duties. Join like a community action group, or join a parents board for the school. A lot of kids, in order, at least here in British Columbia, where I'm at in Canada, we have these lottery gaming corporations, and they give a bit of the proceeds out to these parent councils that are attached to the schools. As long as the parents council has the minimum requisite number of members, which is usually 3, a chair, a treasurer, and a secretary. As long as you have that, then you can apply and get gaming grant funds, few $1,000s here and there that can convert into, kids equipment, is a way of doing this. So this is very exciting to have this sort of vision. And if you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast where this came up, Jordan talks about how so many people have come to say, "Oh, you're doing this? Yeah, count me in, count me in, count me in." Probably be millions of people that would be very interested in this, because we're in an age and time right now where we do have the memory, and hopefully here, teach the history, teach the lead up to World War II, teach the lead up to the Soviet, the Bolshevik revolutions, the Maoist revolutions, Pol Pot in Cambodia. Carefully read about these things and the way that the lead up happens to get to these configurations, and where millions of people then die because you're on the ideological wrong side of the tyrants. So this is, and identity and culture wars, color revolutions are a key to this. So the miracle that we want to have happen here is to get people together into tight-knit, robust communities. Robust communities are they'll stand up for, when you have nice things and you have people that work hard to build nice things, and other people see the benefit of those nice things, and then the tyrant comes along to take away nice things, then you have a way to push back, a way to add a voice to the public discourse and tell the folk that are doing this, you're wrong. You're out of bounds here. And your civic government might be quite sensitive to that. They may not know better, because if the ideology goes in one side, because they hear what the WEFers are talking about, and they hear the all the alphabet people stuff that gets blown up, and that you evil colonialists and all this other rigmarole that gets bandied about without people really understanding what it is that you're talking about. And we want to have some counter narrative to that. So in this article, this is the deep dive. I don't know much about this. I just found this article and started to look through it. They introduced this. You don't get to save the planet by making energy prices so expensive that no one poor can afford them. That's off the table. You don't get to impose your utopian vision in the service of your narcissism on the poor. And these are very good points because, okay, we do want to have some concern with the environment, but not to the point where it makes people more destitute. Oh, well, what does that mean? Well, if you take Europe, for example, and there was cheap gas that was going into Europe, and because of sanctions, those gas prices are going up. Well, you may have people that are hanging on right at the cusp, paycheck to paycheck, just trying to do things to meet ends meet, and all of a sudden, boom, your energy prices go up. Now you have a choice. Well, do I heat myself so I don't freeze, or do I go out and buy food? And I might not even be able to afford decent food. I might have to buy cruddy processed stuff that, well, you get a lot of garbage calories without a lot of nutrition in it. And if you put one after another, then it can look like that. Well, you're pushing our energy prices up. We got crappy food. You're pushing up against the farmers. They can no longer produce great food. And the great food that they can produce, you legislate so that all the nutritional value is just destroyed out of it. Amos Miller Farms for something to look at in the USA as an example. That's been happening. So things like that, where decentralization means, and you decentralize in allowing people to do what they want or have what they want to put into their bodies, and creating groups around that. So if you want to do whole milk farming, unpasteurizing, understand all the safety concerns about that, and do it safely, and there's ways of doing that as an example, then you shouldn't have the government on top of you. And if things go wrong, well, then you're in legal risk. And again, this podcast, no legal advice, no medical advice, no financial advice here. Just make your own choices, make your decisions. So moving on. So he's bringing up through the podcast talking about environmental aspects. And he talked about, well, how do we arrange systems of governance without a top-down approach like the WF? How to promote long-term monogamous child-centered families? Here, that's part of what we're about in Atomo here. Everything, build up great families. We're looking to create a better world for our kids, and that's part of what the wokists want to tear down, is all the work that our ancestors have done to build this great place. Part of what I do is to help people become better versions of themselves, and hopefully that lifts everybody else around. So great things there. What I wanted to look at here in this article is funny how, I guess whoever's pulling the article, I guess just Skits posted some stuff up. I don't know who this person is. When I look at, oh, you're pulling, I have not looked into the details, but I'm against global groups of powerful people trying to determine how the rest of us should live. Completely misses the point. Guess they didn't even listen to the podcast. It's not about Jordan and company telling you what to do. It's about creating a framework. And the big thing here is they're not going to give you prescription. They're going to ask questions. And then, this is what I do in my line of work is, well, there's some elements of providing some mentoring and guidance. Overall, it's opening the question so people can fill in the options of potential solutions. Then we go through a process of calling out the solutions that may not work. And we look at, okay, what are the most robust and viable solutions? So this is completely, this Simon Jester, whoever, is completely off. I went to look at their Twitter. Okay, not much is going on there. So super duper ultra mega. And it's so, hey, I'm far center. I'll pick on both the right and the left. And this is where your mega people they don't understand this. This is actually more in the wheelhouse of something that would be mega, make America great again. Well, how do you do that? You have to do it through grassroots uplift and creating a type of vision. But this is something that Jordan also pointed out, that sometimes conservatives lack that openness to create a great vision. But once a great vision is established, you get a lot of energy from conservative types to really push the execution forward on that. And this is where great organizations have a balance between, you have your open people who tend to be progressive, more left leaning, but they come up with great ideas and great visions. Then you have your kind of more righter leaning people that are more conscientious, that don't have as much as the openness, but they can really, when they lock onto something, they can execute, and make that things happen. You need both of those groups coming together. The moment you cut it down the middle and ostracize both of those groups, then you get the people who would really put a lot of energy to keep your systems up and running and your lights on get disconnected from the really good ideas, and then these ideas start to fizzle and corrupt themselves. Like, look at Twitter. The code base in Twitter, from what I'm hearing, is an absolute mess. And I find this is more often when you don't have enough conservative type software development people, and it gets pushed more to, you got these great open people that will build something, but they tend to be not as good in the discipline of the practice. So moving on here, and then there's this other one. How hard will Jordan Peterson cry when this fails spectacularly? I don't know, whoever this Grace, the Duke of Ankh is, probably just a troll account. Well, husband, father of a spectrum child, grows in Brooklyn. No, is that my cow? Goes moo. Yes, that's my, okay. Hip deep in hipsters. Okay, well, I guess so. And just sometimes it's opt to take a look at what's going on here and seeing the leaning of some of these commenters are. So I'm not going to pay much attention. Obviously, somebody is just lolzing around. Okay, so yeah, and here's the other thing is, Canadian Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland is actually one of the directors of the Davos group. So talk about conflict of interest, where your deputy prime minister of my country is embedded in this thing. And so that brings up questions about arm's length transactions and the amount of kind of a type of nepotism and favoritism that can evolve from that. So, and just wanted to bring up in today's video. Definitely be keeping an eye on this to see how this evolves. Some great things that are happening here, and hopefully we can start to add to the overall collective of thought. Again, the court of public opinion is very important here for us to get these points across, because we want to make sure that there's a good counterbalance against the woke ideology that is now all over the place. It's in the universities. There's a lot more I can talk about this, and it's actually kind of black pilling in a way that there's no call for it, and it's wokeism is power for power's sake. Yeah, can go down that rabbit hole, can discuss that. But decentralization, building grassroots stuff is not about power. It's about creating great things that people want to enjoy. So I'm looking forward to what Jordan Peterson and company are looking to develop. And we'll keep following it here. Have a good one.